Good morning.
Good
I don't
morning
believe
to
we've
you.
met since your appointment as a Black Star School, so I believe congratulations are in order.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Andy. And it's an honour and a pleasure to be here.
What's been the experience like for you?
Well, I think there are probably two, different types of experience, and one is the experience of the difference between club football and international football. The big difference is that from club football you have a relationship with the players day to day. You play a game every week, so there are so many more ups and downs, there are so many more communication, and probably what you're allowed to do, you're allowed to build a team. It's club football. International football is very different. Sometimes you can have the players 2 days training before a game. So it's more difficult to build a team, build relationships, and what you have to do is you have to put as much as you can into that short period of time that you have with them. So that's the difference in that. Being here, I knew Ghana before, so probably the experiences of Ghana, which have been more of late because I'm spending more time here, are not dramatically different to what I've experienced before in my times coming here.
What are the similarities?
In the similarities in what? In
the experiences that you have mentioned.
It's a culture. It's the vibrancy of the country. One thing I have experienced, I must admit, are in all of my time here before, it's predominantly been here in Accra. Right. So what I have been able to do over this last year is experience other parts of the countries. A lot of Kumasi, because there's a lot happening there, and of course the games have taken place there, but also to other regions, Tamale and Cape Coast, Doma. So this is the part I've enjoyed.
Did you like Doma?
Yes. Yes, but predominantly I was there to watch a game. So, I mean, what I haven't experienced is that on most of my travels have been to watch games and, of course, watch the local players. They've not been so much to spend time in the area. So I've experienced some of it, but not a lot of it. So that's the part that I've enjoyed, going to other parts of the country.
We'll circle back to two of the issues that you've mentioned. The issue of the time, the limited time that you have to spend with players, which invariably affects team building. And then the issue of your visits to these local clubs, league centers, and all of that. But let's for now focus on the culture. A lot of coaches come into Ghana, even for those like you who've lived here before, when they have their first coaching experience, especially for those who have coached elsewhere, they talk about a cultural shock in terms of the management, in terms of the perception of football, and even the football culture itself, the daily practices from players to managers to everybody that they encounter in the football space. What has your experience been? Have you also experienced that cultural shock?
Yes, and probably issues, the wrong word. For me, it's more about experience. Right. And I think what probably the angle I come from is that I'm not a young coach. I'm a coach that's had a lot of experience, not only just as a head coach, but as a coach. So I've experienced a lot. I've experienced in England, the top level, and the second. I've experienced going to clubs that have top facilities and clubs that don't. So the experiences here are different. The facilities perhaps wouldn't be of the level of perhaps what you would have elsewhere. But these are clubs that are experienced clubs, football clubs. If I'm talking predominantly England, that have had that many years to build a structure. They have a fan base that supports them week in, week out, and they have big money that supports them week in, week out. Africa's different. And the levels of expenditure are different. So you have to accept that at times that the facilities might not be what you have experienced before. But this is normal. And this is normal, I think, when you come to international football. So they're the things that you have to work around. Also, of course, when you're working at club level, your relationships with your bosses are day to day.
Yeah.
In international football, they're more sporadic. So we have a period of time together where we try to get everything right in a short period of time together, and then you come away from that. So these are the normal things that you have to experience. One thing that is probably, if I talk about the enjoyable parts, are bringing together
right.
a group of players that play their club football abroad, but are all coming home. So whenever they come home, there's a responsibility and a feel that they feel once they get back here in the Ghana. And it's wonderful to see them all in a group, meeting up with each other. They haven't seen each other for a good period of time, and of course, all excited to see each other.
In terms of your relationship with, so you mentioned your bosses, that at club level it's more frequent. At the national team, it's a bit more sporadic. What has been the level of relationship you have, particularly with the so-called management committee?
The relationship I have with the management committee is very good. It's very good, it's very constant, because although I'm not here all the time, then there's never anything stopping me having the relationships that I need to have.
Communication.
Yes, and the communication. So I'd have to say that communication is always good. I have a group of people behind me, i.e. the association, the management, that are all after one thing, and that is for us to all go in the right direction, to the team to be as successful as possible, and what it takes for the team to be as successful as possible. To see the development of players, particularly young players, that are coming into a squad, that have come through the ranks, that have come through, the younger teams, and they're now in the senior team. So my experiences with my bosses as such, management, the association, is good, and I've had very good support.
It appears that kind of support and desire to excel can get overzealous sometimes. Somewhere last month we had, in a very strange sequence of events, 2 executive council members and the Black Stars team manager more or less question your capacity to do the job. And very similar language in communicating that the team is not performing, there is no time. Were you surprised by these commentaries?
No, I go back to what I've said. I've been in the game a long time, and the beauty of our game, and this is also one thing I've learned since I've been here.
Yeah.
Ghanaians are very passionate about their football. We're in a time now, I know, here in Ghana, where it's financially the country are going through a very difficult time. But through all that, there's one constant thing, is that Ghanaians are very passionate about their football. And when they're passionate about their football, then, they're not afraid to take the time to express their thoughts. This is normal. This is something that I've found since I've been here. When I go out into the streets, and it's not so often, because normally I'm in the environment here, but whenever I'm going to games, there are always people there, and supporters that will come up to me and tell me what they think. So, no, I think anything that's said. One thing I'm always conscious of is that football is highs and lows, and when you're on the back of what I regard as a poor result, and our last result against Madagascar was not the result that we wanted, is that there's always going to be a reaction. For me, this is normal. You can't expect for everything to be good and to be praised all the time. So, no, I trust the people around me, and I trust that that anybody around me that says anything, they say it for what they believe is the right reasons. I'm never affected
But
by
should that
anything.
kind of public criticism not come from journalists and that they convey their views to you? Because they are in a position to have that kind of communication. It is their job to help you to succeed. Should that kind of commentary and assessment not be had internally?
The subjects you're talking about now are, they're political subjects.
Right.
One thing as head coach of this national team is I don't get involved in politics.
Right.
My focus is on the team and the team doing well. I always know that there's politics involved because this is the nature of the game, and this is the enthusiasm and the passion that Ghanaians have for football. One thing I can assure you is that within my remit, I have a lot of conversations with everybody.
Right.
With everybody. And I'm always confident and comfortable with the conversations that I have. For anything that goes outside of that, that is for other people to judge. My focus has to be on the team. Yeah, and if I put my focus elsewhere on political matters or things that are being said, you can't do your job properly. I focus on the team, and this is how I've always been. I've managed teams in England, in the Premier League, and in the Championship. And in all of that environment, there are management groups, there are CEOs, there are owners, and there's always comments, okay, and always comments about games, teams doing well, not doing so well. So anything around that, I have to concentrate on the team.
Fair enough.
And this is what I do.
Fair enough. So back to the issue I said I was going to ask you about. Coaching at the national team affords you, and in this case, you're flying to Kumasi, I'm told, either today or tomorrow. You have 2 training sessions, and then the game on Thursday. Remarkably short period to have any kind of bond or even attempt to teach automatisms into the squad. When you have a short-term contract like yours, it even exacerbates the situation. Just talk us through the difficulty of your situation, especially with an AFCON where these days the average Ghanaian's mindset is, irrespective of the context, we have to win the AFCON because it's taking forever.
Yeah, I mean, all of them things I understand, and this is normal, particularly in a country here that loves their football so much, and particularly, as I said, with some difficult times. But the situation that I have with the limited time is the same for all international coaches. So if I'm looking at our Central African Republic, our next opponents, their head coach would be in the same position as me, would have the same difficulties as me, and so this is something you have to accept. You have to accept that you have a group of players that and for us, the large majority play in Europe, that they will play Saturday or Sunday, come to Ghana on Sunday or Monday, and it's a very short period of time. All you can do is for the period of time that you are in the role, is that for each camp, that you are instilling some ways, some preferences, some things that are acceptable. Each time that you are in camp, that you are giving this to the players, and over a period of time, then one camp, then the next camp, and that the players are certain about what the coach wants, the way that he wants to play, the disciplines that he has, all of these things that obviously you need to bring into, of course, a game plan.
The short time you have, is that a reason we don't see a lot of new faces in the team, and that you try to keep a close knit in terms of the profile of players that
Yeah, something to do with that. I mean, what we have is that, and the good thing is, we have so many Ghanaian players. If I speak about two, I can here looking at the local leagues, the levels, the individual players that I think can bridge that gap and make their way into the squad. But also, we have so many players playing in Europe that are not even in the squad, and it almost seems that there isn't a week or a couple of weeks that go past that somebody isn't telling me about another Ghanaian player that's excelling. But what you can't do is that if we're speaking about building something, it's difficult to build something when every squad that I pick, there's 5 or 6 new players. So, but of course, if you've got somebody that's excelling and doing really well, it's a big interest to us. So mostly it's about getting the balance between consistency in the squad, freshening up the squad a little bit, and of course taking notice of somebody who's really excelling and doing well.
So in terms of this process, talk us through the selection process for each of these scholars. So for example, the list you put out on Saturday for the Central African Republic game, what do you look out for in calling a player into the national team? For a long time, there's been a debate, endless, which we don't even seem to agree on what ought to be. For you are the man who decides who gets to be called up. What do you look out for?
Well, certainly as regards metrics, it's difficult to have metrics when in your mind you can have a squad and then 4, 5 of them players are not available. And this is something that you always take into the right context. Is that you very rarely will have a squad in your mind some month before and they're all available, because so this is something. There are, if you speak about metrics and consistencies, some of the things that come into account. The most important thing is winning the game. Okay, so I need to think about a team. I need to think about a team that's going to win us this game. This is first and foremost. I need a support mechanism, i.e. a squad around that is going to give us the options to win this. So if you're not starting, who are the players that can come off the bench and make an impact that can get us back in the game, win us the game, put us further forward in it. So they're two of the criteria that first come into mind. But then also it's about consistency. Do I need to bring a young player? Do I need to bring a young player in for his first squad when this is a game? This is almost how you can see it, like a one-off game that we need to win. So there are so many criteria that you have to think of. First is about availability, who's available. If a player that you know that's going to be in the squad is not available, what's the replacement? How do I want to play? I've been relatively consistent with a way of playing, even though I'm able to tweak that a little bit. So there are so many parts of it that you have to try and get right. But mostly it's about the core of the group. Can I keep a core together that are used to being here, that can handle international football, that are not going to be fazed by international football? Winning the game, the freshness in the group, and it's always good to have some freshness in the group to lift the levels, to keep players on their toes. So these are so many criteria that we need.
Now, let's talk about some of the players who get called up. Andre Ayew, where does he stand in the grand scheme of affairs for? In the last couple of months, we've not seen him being very active. He last played in March, if I'm not mistaken. But he's made the squad in a time where we've seen a lot of competition or competitive performance from Ghana's forwards. He's into his 11th or 12th year in the national team. There is a growing perception that we may have to manage his involvement in that team. Do you agree to that?
Well, growing conceptions doesn't. It's not something that means too much to me. Now, from my point of view as head coach, it's about the squad that I want and the reasons for each player to be in the squad. So what is a perception outside? I don't know, and this is not my concern. What I have to do is I have to pick a squad, and that squad can be made up of young, exciting players. They can be made up of perhaps more experienced players. There will always be, in the general public, there will always be a lot of debate about who should be in the squad and who shouldn't. And there are players, and Andre comes into a category. We know that he hasn't played as much, so we're knowledgeable about the amount of games that he's played, but I also know what he means to the squad. He's our captain. I know what he gives the squad as regards, and anybody in the squad. It's never just about their abilities. It's about what they bring to the squad, some experience, some know-how, how they can affect the other players. So for every player that's in the squad, there is a reason, and there will always be debate about any member of the squad. And I'm quite sure if I asked you, or if I asked the gentleman sitting over there or the gentleman sitting over there, their squads, I'm quite sure that there would be players in the squad that would be different that are in there.
Now, in terms of the future of this team, we have seen, okay, so before we talk about the future, yesterday or on Friday, Gareth Southgate announced his list for the next England friends, and it included a certain Eddie Nketiah, which, in the eyes of many, closes that door to Ghana, since it is likely he may get it and all of that. How close were we to having Eddie Nketiah play for us?
Well, I must admit credit to the GFA that they were having conversations with him even well before I was involved in the setup, certainly as technical advisor before and now as head coach. So he is a player that's, of course, always been on the radar. And as I say, credit to the GFA, because their lines of contact were well before mine. But I've also had conversations with him. And it all comes down to one thing, is the players that are here are players that have wanted to commit themselves to the national team and commit themselves to Ghana. I think with Eddie Nketiah's situation, I think maybe a little bit different to some others. He's played for England at youth level, and certainly had a very good period of time for them at under 21 level. And I think for him personally, I think this is something that has affected him. And I think this is the reason why he wanted to wait for this England call-up, which he has now got.
Now, there are many like Eddie Nketiah who actually made the decision to play for Ghana. We've seen a number of those from the time you were technical advisor up until now. One of the concerns many like myself have raised has been sometimes the absence of a culture that allows these players to gradually integrate into the Black Stars culture, because most of them probably have only come here for holidays and are not exactly in tune with the Ghanaian mindset or what it means to play for the Black Stars. In your time, is there a conscious effort to ensure that Iñaki Williams and all of these boys who Tariq Lamptey have made the switch to play don't only come to play, but are able to understand the ethos, the essence of the national team?
Well, it's a good question, but of course, every player is different. You know, you would have somebody like Tariq Lamptey, who, although has spent all of his life in England, has also spent a lot of time here, growing up, speaks the language, to somebody different that was born in England or Germany and France, that hasn't had the same type of upbringing, that hasn't had the same type of culture experiences here. They might have had them cultural experiences within their own family group in their countries, Germany, France, England, but not here. I think the difficulty is that, you know, we can only do so much. And even before my time, I think the association can only do so much, because there are so many examples, you know, and even in my time being involved, you know, we have so many Ghanaians in Europe. And there is a big mix of Ghanaians that have born and brought up here, but now playing in Europe, and so many that are what we call second generation Ghanaians. So I think the difficulty is that we, if I say myself, and I think in the past, the association can only do so much. And I think credit to them, they do what they can. Certainly when I first became involved with the association, they were very good at detailing the Ghanaian players that are playing.
Database.
So if I'm looking at the database that they had was very expansive, and obviously covered a lot of countries. So I think they've done a lot of work that way as regarding identifying the Ghanaians, first generation, second generation Ghanaians. But I think it's very difficult with so many to really be able to identify the ones that you want to expose them to more culture. Yeah. I think it's very difficult.
Now, let's talk about the next generation. We have seen the Black Meteors also play. Is there a plan for progressing the current group into the Black Stars? And if there is, it obviously has to include your idea of what the Black Stars has to look like. And there have been traces of that in the Black Meteors, so that when they come into the team, the period of acclimatization is not too long.
Yeah. Again, I would go back to a development between Meteors to the Black Stars. In my experiences, in a short period of time, there has been that transition, and we have had players coming from the younger teams, yeah, very much that transition to the senior teams. As regards the football culture as such, going from one to the other, it's a little bit different at international football. I think what we have, what clubs would experience is, when you're on a day-to-day basis, it's very easy to have that ethos, that philosophy that goes right the way through the club. It's very easy, because in any club football you will have the academy teams going through to the 16s, 19s, the 23s, and the senior, that are all working on a day-to-day basis. So this is easier. When it comes to international football, yes, what we would like to see are similarities in a style and a way of playing between the teams. But ultimately, it becomes about winning games. And for me personally, if I look at our under-23s, and for a particular game, their way of wanting to win this game, it's a little bit different to how they would normally play, or certainly a little bit different to how the Black Stars would play. Then for me, I think this is acceptable. We liaise a lot. I was with the 23s in Morocco for the AFCON tournaments. So I spoke with the coaches an awful lot, and we've had in our World Cup experiences, we've had the coaches with us. So there's a lot of communication going on, and I think as much as possible we will try to overlap a way of playing. But when it comes to matches, it's about winning football matches.
Right.
And you have to win that in the best way.
You've been to a number of the Ghana Premier League centres, a number of the regions as well. What is the objective of these trips that you've been?
For me, the objectives is very simple. Is that even though I spent time in Ghana before, I came in and I don't know the local league. As regards, I know the teams, I know the names of the teams, and I've followed some of the teams. I've watched some of the games on video, but as regards going to the stadiums,
watch there.
Yeah, and there are always two things. One is individual players, but the other one is the level of the game. You know, how do I see the level of the game? It's a league here at the moment that a lot of the best players are leaving. So it's one about finding a level and, of course, individual players. And I can only do that over a period of time. And at this moment, I'm trying to get as many games in as I can.
We have to wrap up in about 3 minutes. Just 3 questions, and then we'll go. Just how important is Thursday's game? We need to avoid the defeats, and then we're through to the Cup of Nations. What's it looking like for you?
It's a game that has to see us qualifying for AFCON. I think I'm aware of that. Every one of our supporters are aware of that, and you are aware of that too. And we will do everything that we can as regards the team, motivation of the team, picking the right team to make that happen.
Beyond the AFCON, the World Cup draw has been conducted. Very interesting group that Ghana finds itself in. A number of Ghanaians have said going to the US is a must for Ghana. What is your thoughts on the draw itself and Ghana's chances of qualifying?
It depends which way you look at the draw. Some will look at it and say it's a tough draw. Mali are a team, of course, that's doing very well at the moment. But what we have a lot of familiarity in the group. So these are teams that we know. So I think we have to look at it as a good opportunity. We have to look at it as a good opportunity to qualify for another World Cup. I think the experience of the last World Cup is something that, irrespective of the fact that we didn't make it through the group, but the experience was good for all. And when you have a good experience like that, it makes you want to have that experience again. And we will do everything we can to qualify out the group.
Final question. The last 2 coaches of the Black Stars, or 2 of the last 3, have complained about supposed interference. In fact, when Otuado was leaving that press conference in Qatar, he told the press that he hopes the next Black Stars coach would be given the freedom to work and will be of strong will. What has been your experience like? Have you experienced anything like that?
My experience with the association is from day one has been good. With the president, mostly with the president, I've had very, very good conversations. I will fill him in on everything. The squad that I pick, the team that I pick. The team that I pick is the solely my responsibility, and this is the way that I've always worked. But it's normal, you know. When we do well, I'll have good conversations with the president. When we don't do so well, I'll have conversations with the president that are normal conversations, and go through the processes of why things didn't work well. So this is all. I think the only thing you can always ask for is good support from your bosses. And my bosses, of course, are the GFA and, of course, the president. And as I said, my experiences so far with him have been enlightening and very good.
Mr. Hughton, we wish you good fortune, and we hope your work delivers the success we're all looking for.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
I appreciate that.
Good luck on Thursday.
Thank you. Yes.
The ABS, Asaase Breakfast Show.
Welcome back. It's 14 minutes past 8 on the Asaase Breakfast Show. And that was a conversation between VAT, not the tax, Victor Achitamaklo, and Chris Hughton, the head coach of the Black Stars. A very, very insightful conversation. I like his steely confidence, about, how things have been going. But, I mean, did you get a sense that the